What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shooky from Shook Earth Media, and today we're talking about the worst changes from Walking Dead comic book to the Walking Dead TV show. Now, for those who don't know, the Walking Dead TV show is an adaptation of a comic series from Image Comics written by Robert Kirkman, and it's my favorite comic series ever, and sometimes they've made a lot of changes here and there, and in general, I think adaptations, you have to change some things. If you just do a straight adaptation, it's almost like, well, what was the point, right? You got to change some things, and I'm actually very glad that they're willing to try new things, to change things here and there, try different things. Some of the changes are great, and we're going to do a follow-up video of the best changes from the comic book, but I thought it'd be fun to talk about what I think are the worst changes. And right off the bat, the first one we have is one of the pivotal moments in the Walking Dead series. In the comic, it was this huge revelation that everyone is infected, and no matter how you die, you will return as a zombie. This really changed the dynamic of how zombies come about, and it made a lot of new, fresh dangers for our survivors. And it means, of course, that there will be plenty more zombies as the series continues. So it gives an explanation as to why there just seem to be more and more zombies. Because even though people are learning to survive better and they are better at killing zombies, still, even no matter what, everybody dies eventually, and they will come back as a zombie if they are not taken care of. So it's a big twist, and in the comic series, the way it was revealed was so much more memorable. It was an absolutely earth-shattering moment where Tyrese's daughter and her boyfriend, who's a piece of shit, we all hate him, and they had a suicide pact, and they were going to try to shoot each other at the same time, but of course, Tyrese's daughter hesitated, and the boyfriend character was the only one alive in that scenario. So Tyrese and Rick come upon this scenario, and Tyrese kind of loses it, and he kills the boyfriend. And the boyfriend comes back, I believe both of them come back as zombies, and that is the moment where it is revealed that you don't need to be bitten to come back as a zombie. So it was a huge moment, and it led to Rick driving back. He couldn't sleep. He drove back to where they buried Shane. He dug him up, and then proceeded to shoot him. He realized, oh, he came back as a zombie. So that was a earth-shattering moment, extremely memorable, one of the best moments in the entire series, very shocking, and it was not adapted in any way in the comic, in the TV show, rather. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity. Instead, we had this whole plot line where the group went to the CDC. And, I mean, I don't mind that storyline, talking to the scientist, seeing some of his observations, and it did pay off. Lately, we got a cool scene where that scientist character, came back for a cameo in a post-credit scene of World Beyond that I've talked about on this channel, and I really enjoy that scene. But right before they left, the scientist character whispered in Rick's ear that everyone is infected, and that Rick revealed that to the group at the end of season 2. Now, I think that was a wasted opportunity, and we should have seen that revelation organically in the story. Even though Rick knew the truth, you could have had the CDC storyline. Rick knew the truth, he just didn't tell anybody, and then we see it happen somewhere else first, before then, in the somewhat shocking manner, and that would have been great, but it was really just a missed opportunity to me. And that leads right into my number 2 change that I don't care for, and that is Tyrese's character. Tyrese's character on the show really never reached his comic counterparts. Tyrese in the comics was pretty much the replacement for Shane. He was Rick's number 2, his best friend, his second in command for all intents and purposes. He was a very interesting character, charismatic guy, He's a really cool character that I think most of the fans really enjoyed. He was never really that character on the show. He just kind of showed up in season 3 and then left and then came back again. And his death scene was really cool. He had a whole episode. It was very like psychedelic kind of episode, and that was really cool. But he never got to be that same charismatic second in command to Rick character. And I think that's in large part because we have Daryl on the show, who isn't in the comics. We'll get back to him later. But that really was kind of disappointing to me that we never got to see the true Tyrese. I mean, there's so many memorable moments with Tyrese, and he was just one of my favorites, and I just felt like he was underutilized in the show. So that's just my feeling on that. And continuing on with Season 3. Season 3, as a comic fan, was a big disappointment to me because the prison arc in the comics is my favorite, probably. I think it's some of the... Like, I've never read something so fast in my life as when I was reading those trade paperbacks back when I first started getting into it after Season 1 of the show premiered. I just devoured these books. You know, I never read anything so fast in my life, and I was just so enraptured by the prison arc, and it just kept escalating. I mean, we had so many great storylines, but a lot of them never really showed up on the series, and they really tried to tone down the governor, whereas in the comic, he's just a total piece of shit the whole time, and he chops off Rick's hand. Now, I understand why they didn't want to do that for budgetary reasons and having to CGI out Rick's hand all the time. It would have been a little straining on the budget, so I can understand why they didn't do that. But they really toned down his character overall, and I think they were trying to make him somewhat more sympathetic. And really all they ended up doing was watering down the source material, in my opinion, because there was parts in the comic that were extremely shocking, where he basically captured Michonne and just did horrific things to her. And Michonne, we'll get back to Michonne as well, but they've changed her character a lot. But in the comics, she's very impulsive, she's vengeful, and she has this bloodlust. And when she got the opportunity to get her revenge on the governor, she really took it way too far and then didn't even actually manage to kill him all the way. She wanted to make him suffer so badly that she did all these grotesque things. You know, she's really hurting herself in this scenario. Almost as... not as much as she's hurting him, but... you know, and we can understand it, like, at the beginning of her getting her revenge, you're like, yeah, go and fucking kill him, and then I'm just like, stop, just kill him already, what are you doing? And these really great scenes, and then that's when the attack on the prison happened, whereas in the show, we kind of had the governor, like, he wasn't really that evil, he was just a little crazy, and then at the end of season 3, he just, like, murders a bunch of his people and then goes on his own. And then he meets new people, and this part of the storyline is okay, like, where he's a little bit more sympathetic, and he convinces all these people to attack the prison. But really, we just ended up splitting up the attack on the prison into 2 episodes, and it wasn't anywhere near as shocking or interesting. And really, they tried way too hard, in my opinion, to make the governor sympathetic, whereas they should have really just stuck more with the source material, in my opinion. And the comic has a novel called The Rise of the Governor that's really great, that actually tries to make the governor more sympathetic in general, and it does a very good job of it. So they could have adapted that storyline in some way, although I don't know if they have the rights to the books. They probably don't. But, you know, I would have rather seen something like that. Maybe he had a movie episode that was similar to that book, instead of this, like, watering down of the character. And I guess it's because maybe the censors at AMC wouldn't let them do the real storyline. Maybe that's it. But I don't know. I wasn't really big on that whole storyline on the show. I thought it was disappointing as a comic fan. And also, we had Andrea, of course, get killed in that season as well. She was, like, hooking up with the governor, and I really didn't care for that either. I liked Andrea's one of my favorite characters in the comic, and her arc ended very prematurely on the show, and in a way that wasn't at all satisfying. So I really feel that was a missed opportunity. So, we never got to see Andrea come into her own as well, and that was kind of a shame. So my next difference I didn't really care for was the introduction of Jesus, Paul. They changed his last name. In the comics, it's Paul Monroe. I think it's Riviera on the show. I don't know why they changed that. No reason to change that. They just did for no reason. But I'm getting sidetracked. In the show, in the comic, he's one of my favorite characters, straight up. I love Jesus. He's like the Kung Fu master. He has so many badass moments. He's this calm, collected, moral guy. He's a voice of reason. He's just a guy that I seek to emulate if I'm ever in like an extreme situation like that. I want to be like this guy. I want to be that calm, collected, reasonable guy. I want to be the guy who can do the hard thing that needs to be done. He's just a guy that I think everyone should like look up to, but he's like a hopeful figure as well to me, and he's just a cool guy, and I liked his arc and how he changes over time. And I mean, in the war, he's like catching grenades and throwing them back. He has so many cool moments. I really like that character. In the show, he's very underutilized. We pretty much had him introduced in one episode. We got to see some of his kung fu goodness, and that was great. And then he just kind of was just there. He was not really all that active in most of the storylines. And I get it, the show is a huge cast. It's kind of hard to service everybody properly. But I just felt like he was very underutilized. With the only fight we got to see him in the war storyline was between him and Morgan. Which, it made sense with Morgan's storyline, how he had this conflict within him. And we'll get back to Morgan later, but I didn't care for the fact that he didn't get to do a lot of the badass things in the comic. We had this kung fu master guy, and he's barely used in the show. It really was a shame. And they killed him off in the Whisperer storyline. I did appreciate that they at least gave him a really cool action scene right before he died. So they at least did him the service of giving him a good death. But we didn't get to see him, blossom into the guy with the ponytail at the end, and he survived through the end of the comics, and he got with Aaron, and we only really got a hint of that in the death episode. So I like to see him with Aaron and stuff, and I like that storyline. Oh, and also just as a sidebar, like in the comics, you find out that he's gay like way later. And it's done in an organic way where it's just like after the war he's like in bed with a man, and like I didn't even notice that, like we didn't know that already. Does that make any sense? Like I didn't even realize, oh yeah, well it didn't come up as like a big revelation or anything, but in the show we got the originitis thing. I did a video about originitis earlier, which is just Hollywood thinks you need to know everything up front, and they just think you're stupid, and they really think that you need to just be told everything and spoon-fed everything. So originitis means that he had to say he's gay in the first episode, which is just like, dude, he's not a guy that like that would say those kind of things up front. He's not a guy who's gonna be like, he's not gossiping. He's not like the relationships and stuff. Like, not that it's not important to him, but it's not the first thing he's going to talk about with a new friend, okay? So that kind of bugged me, rubbed me the wrong way, but that's just a sidebar. So underutilizing Jesus was an issue for me. So after Carl got shot in the eye, which was a brilliant moment, I'm really glad that they adapted. They missed an opportunity on the show. In the show, they just kind of fast-forwarded time to when Carl was already recovering. But in the comic, we have this amazing, amazing scene in the winter where we didn't know if Carl was going to wake up or not. And it was such a powerful moment. And that is the moment when Rick and Andrea hooked up for the first time. And there's really amazing dialogue. I mean, it's a little cliche, I guess, but it really just felt so real, and it was just like such a powerful moment, like Rick's breaking down, like his son was everything to him, and he really, he says that he felt like he's dead inside, and he's been dead inside for a while, and now that Carl might die, like that would be the end for him. And then Andrea says something along the lines of, don't you know that things that are dead don't stay dead nowadays? And it's really powerful scene, that one of my favorite scenes in the whole series. So I wish that they adapted that, but they didn't. They skipped past it, and it was okay. I'm not saying it was bad. It's just like a scene I really loved, and having that ambiguity about the Carl thing would have really, I think, added some dramatic tension that we could have really used. So that's something that I regret, and really not a fan of how they killed off Carl. That's another change that I didn't really care for. I can see, I think they did it because they saw the time jumps, and they were like, we can't age up Carl like that, and we're going to go ahead, what is it, 8 years basically, 2-year jump and then a 6-year jump, and we can't age up Carl, and we don't want to recast him, so we're going to kill him off. I think that was the decision making, and also like they just wanted to have a big death at that point. But I really didn't like how they killed him off, and also this whole thing with like, oh, Carl wrote a letter to Negan and Rick and tried to get them to make up. It was just like, it didn't even end up mattering because Rick just like did not care at all that Carl didn't want this war to happen. And like the thing, like Negan was like literally was about to kill Carl at one point. So trying to act like he gave a shit about Carl, like he did like Carl, we know that. But trying to act like he actually cared was just, I don't know, it just didn't work for me. So the whole letters thing with Carl just ended up falling flat. So I really didn't like how Carl died, and, in an avoidable way as well. So I didn't like that. That's a change I didn't really care for. Yeah, and lastly, we have the Whisperer storyline being toned down a bit. And this, again, I feel like was to appease the AMC censors. And this... it's not the biggest of deals, because I think they did a good job with the Whisperer storyline in general, and they made some changes that I like. We'll get that to when we do the best of video. But I thought that in the comic we got to really understand what their philosophy was a little more, in that Alpha saw the apocalypse as a return to form, basically, where humanity eschews civilization. We get rid of that concept, and we just become part of the herd. We become part of nature again. And in nature, there is no concept of, sexual assault. I'm going to avoid certain words here. And she was just letting her people do whatever they want with the women, and it was really horrific. And she said that the concept of rape is not something that exists in the natural world, and it was a horrifying thing. And it was like, yep, these motherfuckers gotta go. they're all gonna die. We're gonna kill all of them. And I feel like not including that made the Henry character, who kind of got Carl's storyline in the Whisperer arc, made him look a lot weaker. Because he was trying, in the comics, Carl was trying to save Lydia from getting assaulted over and over again, like she was. But instead, in the show, it's like that wasn't happening, or it wasn't talked about, at least. We didn't see it happen. I can understand not showing it, but I feel like we really should have said in dialogue, not showing it for censorship reasons, I can understand, because it's not pleasant. So, and you have to have people act it out as well, which is also like traumatizing in and of itself. But so I can understand why they wouldn't want to show it, but I feel like we should have touched on it. And Henry is like so desperate to break Lydia out, and in the show it comes off as like he's just really desperate to have a woman, or a young girl, like pay attention to him, as opposed to him trying to rescue her from being assaulted. So it kind of undercut the Henry character for me. So, I don't know, I feel like they kind of pussied out, for lack of a better term. And just to throw it at the end here, I don't like how they can't say the F word, dude. We're on cable, there's no laws that say you can't say fuck, okay? They should just say it it's really out of place in an apocalyptic setting that they don't say it. Okay, it's really weird, especially with the Negan thing. At least they did for the DVD's version, the Blu-ray version, they did do versions of the scenes with Negan dropping the F-bomb. It's really weird to have censored Negan. I really didn't care for it very much, I will admit. So, I much prefer the comic version of Negan where he's, you know, he's basically a big bumbling buffoon, a child, and he swears like a sailor, so that's his character. But anyways, guys, these are what I think are some of the worst changes from comic to TV show. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, if you agree or disagree, if there are other changes you really didn't like. We'll be doing a best changes, so don't think that I think that everything they change is for the worst. There's some great stuff that they did, so we'll get into that in the next video. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sub for more Walking Dead videos. We're going to be doing any news that comes out, and we're going to be reviewing it when it comes back next year, so I'm really looking forward to that. But I hope to see you guys there. Hit that like button if you like, and thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everybody.